Hey y'all, Ethan with 808 Cleanups over here at Spitting Caves. Last time I was here whale watching, there was some graffiti on the rock wall just to the right side going down. So we're going to head down and see if it's still there, and if it is, we're going to clean it up. So here we are down by the graffiti. It's still here on the rock behind me. You see it? It's not too bad, just maybe 4-foot patch of it. So we're going to go ahead and get started and get scrubbed it off and make this place look real nice. The first thing we want to do when we get to any area that we're going to be cleaning is make sure it's safe. We're looking for good footing underneath so you don't trip and fall while scrubbing the graffiti off. Looking at overhanging rocks above, nothing's going to fall down on you. Also making sure if you're near the ocean that you're not putting your back entirely to the waves, or you have somebody with you who's going to keep an eye on the waves so you don't get hit with any surprises there. You can see where we are here. It's a little steep up there next to the graffiti, a little loose footing, but nothing overhanging that we have to be aware of. And certainly no waves right here. We're well up the path away from the water. Checked out the area, make sure it's safe to clean in. Next thing we want to do is take a picture of the graffiti. We do this so we can document it, so we have a record of what's been tagged and what hasn't. Eventually there's some hope of compiling some sort of tagging database so we can figure out who's doing what where. And finally, some of our corporate sponsors rely on the before and after pictures to send up the chain to their upper management to show that they are helping out organizations in the community that are actively cleaning and making Hawaii a better place. Now that we've documented the graffiti, the next step is to apply the lift-off agent. It's going to help us remove it from the rock. We use Mossenbachers. There's a gel form and a spray form. Today we're going to use the spray form, mostly because I forgot the paintbrush to apply the gel form. They both work differently on different sorts of surfaces, and it often takes experimentation to see what one's going to work the best, depending on the paint and the rock surface and how long it's been on the rock. This is the spray-on form. It comes in a 22-ounce bottle. The gel form, which you see here, comes in a 64-ounce container that you pour into smaller cups and then apply with a paintbrush. They are both water-based and water-soluble, and they are biodegradable, so they're safe to use near the ocean and other water sources. With all that accomplished, let's get cleaning. You definitely want to wear some sort of eye protection. I'm going to use my sunglasses today. Eye goggles are definitely a good idea if you don't have sunglasses, and if it's really windy and the rock dust and the spray is blowing around, it's not a bad idea to wear a breather mask as well. First thing we're going to do is apply the Mossenbacher lifting agent in the spray form today. We'll apply it all over where the graffiti is on the rock here, and then we'll give it 10 minutes to work on lifting the paint up from the rock surface. You can see sometimes it's difficult to tell where you've sprayed and where you haven't. It does look a little bit darker and shinier where the Mossenbacher's been on the rock. Sometimes you just need to go over a place 2 or 3 times to make sure you get it though. If we're applying the gel, we do it a very similar way. You pour a little bit into a cup and then use a paintbrush to apply it. Again, it looks shiny. You can see it's thicker, viscous solution over where you've painted and where you haven't. Now that we've got the Mossenbacher applied to the rock, we've got to wait about 10 minutes while it works on removing or loosening the paint from the rock, and then we'll get in there and start scrubbing. Nice thing about a lot of these locations that people have decided to tag is they're rather beautiful. This is Hawaii after all, so it's not the worst of places to wait oftentimes. To actually remove the graffiti, we're going to use a couple different tools. One is a wire brush similar that you'd use when cleaning a barbecue grill. We can also use soft plastic bristle brushes for more gentle work, and also impact drivers or drills with wire wheels attached for really more difficult spots. The goal is to remove as little of the rock as possible and just remove the paint that's on the surface. So the lightest tool for the job is always the best. This is the part where it is very important to have eye protection on. The rock grit tends to get flying around a little bit, so the sunglasses are coming back on. I don't think I'm going to be worried about inhaling any rock dust today. It's not very windy, and the surface is kind of wet from the paint remover. I will put on some gloves though to prevent any blisters and banging my hand against the rock accidentally. Alright, so we're going to get started with the wire brush here and see how it goes. After scrubbing for a while, sometimes it's hard to tell if you've actually removed the graffiti or it's just that the rock dust is covering it up. So you can use a water bottle, sprayer, spray it down a little bit, and then you can get a better sense of whether the rock dust is just covering up the graffiti or you've actually got it off. Everybody's got their favorite methods and ideas about what works best for graffiti removal on a rock surface. Some people like to reapply the Mossenbacher after it's sat for 10 minutes right before they start scrubbing. Some people mix water in with the Mossenbacher just via a spray bottle right before they start scrubbing it. Some people apply water regularly, some people wait until they've got a lot of dust built up. It really depends on what works best for you and what works best on the actual surface and paint that you're trying to remove. It can vary every single time. So you can see I made a pretty good start at removing this. The dark areas on the bottom half are wet still. The paint isn't as visible anymore. The areas up on the top are just a little harder to get at because of the angle required with the brush, and the paint's for some reason just a little bit thicker up there. So what I'm going to do is use the drill with the wire wheel on it, try and get at those spots. I've gotten most of it off now. There's a couple spots that I just wasn't able to get the paint all the way off the rock. Oftentimes sites take 2 or 3 visits to fully remove. And remember, we're not trying to remove every speck of paint. Mostly it's about blending it out into the rock so it's not so readily apparent. The broken windows theory says that if there's windows already broken, people will break more windows. Here it applies if there's graffiti on rocks, people will probably graffiti more rocks. So really it's preventative at this point. The last thing we want to do is spray it down with water one more time, wash off as much of the dust as we can, make sure we got as much as we could. And some people do leave a last coat of the Mossenbacher on it in the idea that the natural elements, the rain and the wind, will wear off more paint. I personally don't generally do that, but some people do. So once we spray it down with water, the final thing to do is take a picture of the after so you compare it with the before. Make sure you pick up any trash that's left in the area, and additionally check if it's in a site that's been adopted by 808 cleanups. There should be signs somewhere. Make sure the signs are up and in good shape, the zip ties aren't tearing. If you do have any problems, you can let us know, and that way we can send somebody out to replace the signs. And finally, be sure to tag anything you see that looks problematic or you're proud of that you've cleaned with the 808 cleanups hashtag 808 cleanups. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and check out our website at 808cleanups.com.